Oh, hey, this is Warren Redlick. A couple things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about xAI and getting an investment potentially from Tesla, getting investment from SpaceX. But before we go there, we're going to talk about the new Model Y six-seater L. Tesla posted this on its Weibo account, which is a Chinese social media website. The Model YL, some weird model YYY thing there. It's a six-seater, and I'm going to brag that I called it back July and August of 2023. I predicted that Tesla would make a longer Model Y. I specifically said 4 to 6 inches longer. This one's 7 inches longer, so I was pretty close. A legit third row. I said castings, which it almost certainly has. Structural 90 kilowatt hour pack. I don't think we know the size of the pack yet. No Falcon Wing doors. No power doors, no air suspension. I believe all this is correct. 350-mile range might be about right. I don't think we know that yet. Price under 80K. This was for the US, and I said 5x sales volume. We're going to talk about sales volume, so we're going to cover this. Hey, Mark, thank you for joining. Sawyer has a lot of details. And there's a document that's filed with the Chinese whatever ministry. So seats 6 passengers, curb weight about 2,100 kilograms. I have a new Model Y. It's about 2,000 kilograms. So not very heavy. It says 209 pounds heavier. That's 100 kilograms heavier than the current Model Y all-wheel drive, which is what I have. Overall length about 7 inches longer than my Model Y. This makes enough room. Keep in mind, the current Model Y, they have squeezed a third row in there, but it was too small. It was, an uncomfortable, awkward third row, and you didn't really have any leg room. It was like you could stick a 3-year-old back there, but you couldn't do more than that. So by adding 7 inches, that's going to create a lot more space. The one in the filing is a dual motor all-wheel drive with peak power outputs of whatever kilowatts front and rear. 1.7 inches taller than the current Model Y. That's going to give you more headroom inside. And I'll explain, I think, why I think this matters. It's something that no one is talking about that I think I know from being in Asia and seeing vehicles like this from Chinese EV makers. 6 inches longer wheelbase, NCM, I believe that's nickel, cobalt, manganese, or nickel, manganese, cobalt is often called. Battery power supplies from LG Energy in China. Top speed, 200 kilometers per hour, 125 miles per hour, no big deal. Payload capacity, 19-inch wheels, new seats. The new seats thing. This is the thing that I want to talk about that I think people might be missing. In Asia, in Thailand, what I've seen, and I believe these are Chinese EVs that come to Thailand, it is common for the second row seats in luxury cars, which Model Y L is going to fit into this category, are often massaging like high-end seats. They haven't said this yet, but it appears they're going to be captain's chairs, right? They're not doing a 3-row. They're not doing a 3-passenger middle row. They're doing like captain's chairs. And I've seen this. I've seen this in the Xpeng X9. I've seen this in the Denza D9, which is BYD's luxury version. It's a common feature. I think the MG Maxus 9 has this as well. Massaging seats in the second row. And you're like, why would you have massaging seats in the second row? Because rich people in Asia hire a driver to drive for them, and they sit in the second row while the driver sits in the front row. The driver doesn't get massaging seats. The second row gets the massaging luxury seats. Now, with FSD, they may not have to pay a driver anymore, but they may still prefer to sit in the second row. So my prediction, and I'm not confident of this, but my prediction is that these will be massaging seats. Hi, Jim. Hi, Mark. We got a warning this time. Sure. I posted, about 3 or 4 hours ago, I posted I was going to do this. So I think that's the distinction and we don't know if they're making this vehicle for the United States. I'm seeing whiners in America like, oh, this isn't what I really want. Well, you might not be getting it. As far as we know, it's only China. I don't know that this is something that Americans would buy. If they're going to be putting massaging seats in the second row, this is not how Americans operate. We don't do that. We drive the car. We don't pay a driver. The human driver in Thailand, it's paid like $10 a day, right? So, for $300 a month, you got a human driver. What are you paying for FSD? $100, $200 a month. So you get a human driver who will also carry your luggage for you. FSD isn't going to carry your luggage for you. So this is something that's it fits Asian market. I don't know if it fits the European market. It's a little bit large for the European market. I'm sure there are some vehicles that large in the European market. I don't know that this is a fit for the U.S. market, at least not with the captain's chairs in the second row. Maybe you do something else. Maybe they'll use the same structure in the U.S., but it'll be a different layout inside. We don't know the answer to that question yet. And you probably wouldn't want to do captain's chairs in the U.S. because you're going to want to be able to fold it flat. And the massaging seat captain's chairs probably aren't going to fold flat well. So you're not going to get the same cargo. Like, this is going to have great cargo room. If you do this with seats that fold flat, you probably do 3 seats in the second row and 2 seats in the back, and they all fold flat, and you get a really good cargo area. But they don't care about that in Asia as much. They're moving a lot of stuff. They pay somebody to move stuff. It doesn't cost much to pay a couple of guys to come with a truck and take your stuff and move it. So they don't typically stick a refrigerator in the back of their Model Y or their Xpeng X9 or whatever. They don't do that. They don't use it for that. So the Toyota taxis in the second row are captain's chairs. Thank you, Digital Blade. So that's a distinction that in China, in Thailand, I think probably in Malaysia, maybe in Vietnam, a lot of the Asian countries, I think this is something that they do. Not Japan, by the way. I don't think this is as common in Japan because human drivers aren't cheap in Japan. But human drivers are cheap in China and Thailand and Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam and Malaysia and probably a few other countries like that. So it's a common thing in some cultures. And a friend of mine, his parents bought an Xpeng X9, and he's taken me for a ride. And I think I went with him when we test drove it. The Xpeng self-driving was absolutely awful. Like, worse than Tesla FSD Beta 2021. Terrible self-driving software. So that's, a big deal. And then Brian Wong, here's what the filing looked like. Brian Wong talked about this, and this is something, I think he's off by a little bit, but he's predicting a 20% share of the China market would be 140,000 units. I think that's a little optimistic, but I do think that globally, this vehicle could potentially do 250,000, not the same configuration, but a vehicle of the same exterior proportions with better interior proportions in the United States. If it doesn't cost much more than the current Model Y, I think it would sell. It wouldn't sell, like, you might not want it, but there are Americans who might want this vehicle if it's a 7-passenger vehicle with seats that fold flat and has a lot of cargo area. It's not your big SUV. It's not the Chevy Tahoe that you want. It's not the Cyber SUV that you might want. But if it sells 100,000 units in the U.S. and 140,000 units or 150,000 units in China and Thailand and Malaysia and Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, if you add it all up and you get to 250,000 vehicles, that's not nothing. That's a good use of the existing production lines. How cheap is a day of hiring a manual laborer in Thailand? In the U.S., it's at least $150. Way more than it's $10 a day. It's the minimum wage in Thailand is $10 a day. And then there are people who work here illegally from Myanmar and Laos and maybe Cambodia who maybe $5 or $6 a day. There's a lot of low wage workers. Now, are they going to do high quality work? Maybe not. But the human driver, you're probably talking about $10, $15 a day. Yeah, you might pay more because you want a better person in your car, but human labor is cheap here. So I just wanted to point this out, that Brian's estimate of 140,000 units in China, I think that's a little optimistic. It's not impossible. Getting a 20% share, because the Chinese EVs are nice, and they're typically larger, and it depends what the owner wants, right? Now, if you deliver it with FSD and it's, a little bit more money, but you don't have to pay a human driver anymore, maybe some people would want that. But if the human driver is cheap, and the human driver also does other things like move your luggage in and out or carry stuff for you or do other tasks, I'm not sure if you're going to choose FSD over the human driver. FSD is cheaper than a human, but FSD isn't going to do other things. It's just going to drive the car. That human driver, it depends how many miles you're going. It depends, maybe there's circumstances, but, if you want somebody to carry stuff for you along with driving you, then the human driver, these guys are used to paying the human driver. So I do think that this will sell well in China, in Thailand, in other Asian countries, Malaysia, etc. Um, and it's not a million units a year, but if it's 250,000 units a year and it's slightly higher price than the current Model Y, it's almost as many sales as Model 3. That's not bad. Thank you, Mark. So yeah, I don't think we're at Optimus yet. We're not sticking Optimus in the car yet. And Optimus, think about it. If Optimus costs 50, I mean, what is Optimus really going to cost in the short term? The early Optimus is going to cost 50 grand, 100 grand. It's going to be hard. The human laborer is $10 a day. It's going to be hard for Optimus to beat that. And you got to amortize that over 30 years or something like that. It's not going to work. When you go down the road and you get to where Optimus, maybe they make them in really high volumes and they're selling them for $20,000, maybe. But when human labor is cheap, human labor is cheap. So, and then I just want to go through, I'm going to talk about a bunch of comments I received. We're going to switch to Tesla investing in xAI. So a lot of this video is going to be looking at comments on my previous YouTube video. So this is not about xAI and this is not about Model Y XL, but it relates to this question. Somebody's asked, and I get this question a lot. Why does Elon need FSD when he's supposedly making Optimus? Shouldn't the robot have the ability to drive you around? There's this idea that the humanoid robot could drive the car, so you don't need FSD. The humanoid robot has 2 eyes. The car has 8 eyes, 8 cameras on the road in all directions. The humanoid robot, the eyes only look in one direction. I don't think they put a camera in the back of Optimus yet. And that still would only be 3 cameras. The car is getting all these cameras, feeding all this data into chips that are optimized for driving with software that's optimized for driving. And it's photons in, photons out. The latency's low. It's able to react very quickly. Optimus would have to have less data coming in. It has less compute on board because Optimus has half the compute of the car. Then it has to steer the car, right? Well, there's a latency there. You're adding too much latency if you have Optimus drive the car and you have less vision. So, in the long run, if you go 10 years from now, will Optimus be competent to drive a car like a human? Yeah, but FSD is going to be better at driving a car. So why can't Optimus patch into the car cameras? Well, what's the additional latency of that, William? It's not hardwired. How much more distance does it have to travel? Is it going through a Bluetooth connection? How much extra time does that take? How much extra time does it take for Optimus to communicate to the car what driving moves to make? Is it steering? Is it somehow locking in mentally to the controls? Why would you take a generalized humanoid robot? You already have a specialized robot that's really good at the job. Why would you stick a general purpose robot that's not as good at the job to do the job? It doesn't make sense. So, all right, so we're going to move on. We're going to move on to xAI. This is the main topic of this video. So there was a post, SpaceX investing $2 billion into Elon Musk's xAI. Before that, there were rumors from the Wall Street Journal that xAI was doing a funding round to raise capital. And I think I misread what Elon's saying here. Bloomberg has this article, or Walter Bloomberg says, the Wall Street Journal has this article saying that SpaceX is investing $2 billion into Elon Musk's xAI. Now, before that, Elon had said that a funding round was not true, that xAI was not seeking funding right now. We have plenty of capital. So when I saw this story, I said, this is probably wrong. The Wall Street Journal is probably wrong, as they are often wrong about Elon's companies. I said, Elon had just said, we're not seeking funding and have plenty of capital. SpaceX needs its money for Starship. This is going to be a lot of what this video is about. And I thought xAI would be an odd investment for SpaceX. Okay, I may have been wrong. I'm not sure I was wrong. I may have been wrong. So Whole Mars blog responds to this by saying it would be great if Tesla could do that. And Elon said it would be great, but subject to board and shareholder approval. He didn't say SpaceX is not investing in xAI. He didn't deny that. Elon never denied this, and he seems to be affirming that it's true by responding in this way to Whole Mars blog. Omar, my friend Omar. So is SpaceX investing $2 billion into xAI? I don't know the answer to that question. It appears the answer is yes, and I find that very odd, and we're going to talk about that. So Elon said in response to, I think, Omar, maybe it was in response to somebody else about the idea, there's this idea that Tesla should invest into xAI. And Elon says, it's not up to me. If it was up to me, Tesla would have invested in xAI long ago. We will have a shareholder vote on the matter. This is probably coming up this year. think maybe November, my best guess when the shareholder meeting is. I don't know if we know when the shareholder meeting is yet, but apparently this will be one of the things we vote on. Now, start off with my response. I will support whatever the Tesla team decides. If Tesla board says we want you to vote for this, I'm going to vote for it. I'm going to encourage you to vote for it. I'll try to understand their reasoning, and I suppose it's possible I won't agree, but I want to see what their reasoning is. But based on what I know now, I don't see why SpaceX or Tesla would invest in xAI. First thing, I don't think I mentioned this here, xAI doesn't have any trouble raising money. Elon's startups never have trouble raising money. If Elon says we're going to do a funding round, they are oversubscribed, which means there are more venture capital firms that want to invest on the terms that Elon specifies, that Elon's company specifies, than they can get. So they have basically a limited supply of outside capital available to invest in Elon startups. I would love to invest in Neuralink or Boring Company, and I haven't got. I thought I was going to have the opportunity to invest in Neuralink this year, and the funding round came and went, and I didn't get an opportunity to get in. And there's a whole bunch of issues with that. If you want to invest, it's like $100,000 minimum up front. You have to be lucky to get in the right group, and like I said, it's oversubscribed, so a lot of people who want to invest get turned away. I never even got notified of the opportunity. So xAI doesn't need SpaceX's money. xAI doesn't need Tesla's money. There's other money out there. So as a Tesla investor, I want Tesla to invest in Tesla's businesses. I want Tesla to invest in its EVs. I want it to invest in its batteries. I want it to invest in its own AI, real world AI. I want it to invest in robots. That's why I'm invested in Tesla. I'm not and I'll talk about this. And if I was a SpaceX investor, and I have had the opportunity to invest in SpaceX, sort of, but it was not good terms. It was like 6% commission, 2% annual fee, 20% carried interest. It's like, well, I could just invest in Tesla. Why would I invest in SpaceX if I got to pay all this? If I could invest on the same terms as I invest in Tesla, sure. So, but if I were a SpaceX investor, I would want them to invest in rockets and satellites. I want them to build up the Starlink network. The Starlink network is a money printer. I want them to build Starship and get to Mars. Why would I want to take SpaceX capital and invest in some other company when I want that SpaceX capital to invest in SpaceX's business? If I want to invest in a company that invests in other companies, I would invest in a mutual fund or an exchange-traded fund, an ETF. I would invest in Ron Barron's fund. Ron Barron has a fund that he invests in Elon's company. He's got shares of SpaceX. I think he's got shares of at least one of his other startups. I would invest in Ron Barron's fund, and then I would get access to these companies. I didn't invest in Tesla so that the Tesla management team could decide what other companies to invest in. I want them to invest in Tesla's business. So now with that said, given that Elon said this, I think Elon might be smarter than me. Just a small chance that Elon's smarter than me. It's likely there are good reasons for these investments for SpaceX or Tesla to invest in xAI that I don't understand yet. And maybe at some point I will understand these reasons. Digital Blade, November 6th for the shareholder meeting. I guess November. That was good. Jim Whitehead says maybe xAI can help with programming Optimus robots in space. But xAI isn't doing real-world AI, and Tesla is doing real-world AI. So Tesla does real-world AI, and xAI does what Grok does. And Elon's companies cooperate anyway. This is one of the overarching themes here is people think that if Tesla invests in xAI, then Tesla gets special privileges on xAI stuff. They already collaborate. Elon's companies all collaborate. But like if you invest in Apple, do you get free iPhones? Do you see what I'm saying? Like what company do you invest in where you get free stuff because you're investing? I mean, it doesn't work that way. If you buy stock in a company, you get stock in the company. I don't think you get anything else, and Elon's companies already cooperate. So this is something that I think is and we're going to go through some of the comments that raise these points, but I just want to be clear about that. If you want to invest in a company that invests in other companies, then invest in mutual funds, invest in exchange-traded funds. If you have enough money, find a venture capitalist, and Steve Jurvetson's a great example. See if you can get in on his investments. Slightly smarter. Exactly, Mark. Slightly smarter. Just a wee bit smarter. So some comments. Mike Tran says, respectfully disagree. The future is super AGI. If you don't have access to this, then your company and your country will be behind. So unless Tesla and SpaceX have their own super AGI, they need to get access to this. He can't compete if he doesn't have that super AGI. I think what he means is artificial super intelligence. So first of all, Tesla already has its own AI. Tesla may win. the race to AGI and artificial superintelligence, because Tesla's the only company with real world AI of any substantial development. But Tesla and SpaceX already have access to Grok. Elon's companies Elon's companies always work together. They always have, they always will. So being an investor doesn't grant you extra access, just like owning Apple stock doesn't get you a free iPhone. Indigenous Earthling, interesting, says why Tesla and SpaceX might invest xAI. xAI's models designing, building, and operating Tesla EV and SpaceX Starship models. Tesla and SpaceX can get access to Grok or whatever else xAI develops without investing. They have all kinds of partnerships with the companies. They work together. There's no like you invest and then you get Grok. They don't get Grok for free. Like I'm invested in Tesla. If I want FSD on my car, I still have to pay for it. If I want a Tesla, I still have to pay for the car. Being invested in Tesla, and I own a fair amount of stock, right? But you could be Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison doesn't get it. Even Elon doesn't get a free car. Elon has to pay for a car if he gets a car from Tesla. Jim Whitehead says Elon has two companies where he was outvoted and booted out of management. Last one was PayPal. Maybe he's worried it will happen again one day. Well, there is this issue of control that may be part of it. Ascendant says, I think it depends on how much compute power Tesla is using in xAI. I've been using Grok inside my Tesla, and it's been great, but the latency for getting response has been slow. But investing in the company doesn't give you more access. This is like, I don't understand why people think this. If you buy a lot of Apple stock, do you get like more cloud compute? If you buy Amazon stock, do you get like some special account with Amazon Web Services, AWS? Like, do you get like free Amazon Prime because you bought stock? Because I had a lot of Amazon stock. I didn't get any of these perks. I don't know why people think these perks are. Tesla has the real world AI. They can just do a deal with xAI for Grok and Optimus. Well, look, Tesla can share real world data with Grok, with xAI. xAI can share Grok with Tesla. They can work together. SpaceX can share space real world data with xAI, and they work it out. They actually have accountants in these companies where it's something called transfer pricing or whatever, where they work out like what's a fair price, how do we allocate the cost of this and that, how do we make this trade fair, and do we have to pass some cash back and forth between the companies? They work all this stuff out. We need to think about energy, solar, and storage solution, battery. I don't think any of that has to do with this. I'm sorry. The Tooth Fairy always hooks me up. So, the next one, why Tesla and SpaceX might invest xAI. xAI models designing, building, and operating Tesla EV and SpaceX Starship models. Okay. I think the cross-pollination of all the companies is a very good thing, but I understand apprehension regarding the mixing of P&L accounts and how that will impact all who can only invest in the public stock. They cross-pollinate anyway. Elon's employees can cross company lines and go work for another company, and they work it out. They have accountants who work out, like, how do we allocate the expense? Another account says, speak for yourself. Tesla and xAI synergies seem vast, and xAI is becoming incredible. Would love my Tesla investment to participate in it to the extent possible. So, yeah, first of all, right, I speak for myself. And I agree that Tesla shareholders will probably vote yes if this is put to the shareholder vote. And I will probably vote yes if it's put to a shareholder vote. I'm not saying it won't win a vote. I'm just asking the question, like, do you as a Tesla investor want Tesla's capital going to developing Tesla's business, or do you want Tesla to become a fund manager for you and start investing in Elon's other companies because you want access to Elon's other companies? Maybe the answer is yes. I mean, I don't mind that as an investor, but that's not why I invested in Tesla. I would love to get access to Elon's other companies, but this isn't how I think we should get it. Mark says, Mark Plot, is Mark here? No, he's not here yet in the chat. Mark Copilot says SpaceX invested $2 billion in xAI, part of a greater $5 billion equity round. And X and xAI are now worth $113 billion. Grok is now used in Starlink customer service. I don't know where he got that from. I'm not saying he's wrong. I just haven't heard that yet. Grok is already an Optimus. Not sure Grok is actually an Optimus yet. Grok will be an Optimus. Grok is in Tesla cars starting around when he posted this. They started putting Grok in Tesla cars. Not all of them. I think it's a slow rollout of Grok into Tesla cars. So this is the reason, right? Hamidas Sadi says, if Tesla invested in xAI last year, we would have 10x our money already. Why wouldn't you want to invest in Elon's other companies? especially because Tesla has so much cash. Pretty stupid if you don't want to do so, in my opinion. I want Tesla's cash invested in Tesla's business. Tesla needs to build massive AI data centers. Tesla needs to build out its robots. It needs to build out its manufacturing. Tesla has a need for that cash. If Tesla puts its cash into xAI, that money is locked up. We don't know when xAI is going to start spending. I don't know if xAI is spending cash yet. We don't know when xAI is going to start generating revenue. When you invest in a startup, your money is tied up. It's not liquid anymore. Do you want Tesla's cash to be liquid, or do you want Tesla's cash to be not illiquid? I want Tesla's cash invested in building factories and building its own AI. And I'm happy to have Tesla work with the other. Again, there may be reasons I don't understand. No one in the comments has given me a reason that I think explains it. If it's just, well, I want to get in on that. Well, then why doesn't Tesla invest in Neuralink? I want to get on Neuralink. So why don't we have Tesla invest in Neuralink? Right? What's your explanation for that one? What about Boring Company? I would love to see Tesla. I think the Boring Company is going to be huge. I want Tesla invested in Boring Company, Neuralink. Right? I would love to see that, but that's not what it's for. Put the matter to board and shareholder approval, then this will be approved. I agree it would be approved. Optimus bots now have great hands, dexterous, but the 22 degree of freedom hands are not particularly strong. Okay, so this is Mark being off topic a little bit. Maybe this was related to the video. We are going to see a Gen 3 Optimus, but I don't think that really relates to this topic, so I'm going to let that one go. John Nelson says solidify control of xAI. Elon already has control of xAI. Giving Tesla shares in xAI actually lessens Elon's control of xAI because Tesla is only 13% owned by Elon right now. So that means the other 80% of the investors in Tesla would have more say in what happens with xAI than Elon would. So that's not helping. Elon already has control of xAI. It's not a problem. He doesn't need help controlling xAI. Merge xAI and Tesla. Elon already said no to that. He doesn't want to merge them. Sell your stock, quit whining. This is the kind of thing I say to people who complain. I'm not complaining. If they do it, I'll support it. If the board says we want this, I'll look at it. I'll make sure I understand. But yeah, we'll see. Merge all three into Tesla, see what happens. Again, Elon doesn't want SpaceX and xAI as public companies, right? He wants them privately held. You're not going to be able to go to Mars with a publicly held company. And Elon has said no. So that's out. Will SpaceX put $2 billion in xAI to develop AI for robots now that could work on Mars? They don't need to invest to partner with xAI to develop some sort of software. But the robots are going to be Optimus robots, which are going to be Tesla's AI. And they might have Grok on board, but the primary AI for the robots is going to be developed by Tesla, not by xAI. In Japan, it's common for related companies to have some cross ownership. It allows them to keep cooperating. Well, they have cross ownership because Elon owns all of them. Elon has a stake in all of them. They basically have cross ownership. It's not like those companies that you're talking about, Jim, don't have a founder like Elon. They're not controlled by a founder like Elon, so that doesn't fit. Ace says, spaceships with brains to handle stuff in space land on Mars. You will see Tesla buy xAI in order for Optimus to get access to more brain power to build stuff on Mars. Number one, they don't have to investigate that. Number two, Elon said that Tesla will not be buying xAI. They're not buying xAI. I don't get where people think that. Elon does not want xAI as part of a public company. He does not want SpaceX as part of a public company. Starlink might spin off and become a public company because Starlink is basically utility, right? That's just going to be spinning cash and doing an IPO and getting a chunk of that cash into SpaceX so that SpaceX can really go all in on Starship. Would be great. Mark Potashnik, somebody else to buy xAI. Nobody's going to. Elon owns. I'm pretty sure Elon owns more than half of xAI. So no one's going to be buying xAI. Elon controls it. He'd have to sell it. The RW Hirsch says SpaceX is investing in xAI because xAI will skyrocket in value and SpaceX can use the profits to achieve its goals. And there's a lot of other theories here. Was it Tesla and SpaceX should have done this a while ago? Maybe even Neuralink too. Like, yeah. The theory behind Tesla not doing it is that xAI will grow massively, and then Tesla and xAI will merge. Tesla and xAI are not going to merge. Elon's already said that. He already has the control that he wants of his other companies. He just needs to get better control of Tesla. Um, yeah, Elon doesn't like public companies. Agreed, Digital Blade. So Digital Blade in the chat says Elon doesn't like having public companies, and I think he may regret making Tesla public, or may regret not successfully taking Tesla private when he tried to do that. That was, the Saudis backed out on him, and maybe it wouldn't have been good to have the Saudis in the company that see him there. We didn't want Tesla to turn into Lucid Motors. So I think I've covered the comments, and I just want to summarize this. Tesla does not need to invest in xAI in order to partner with xAI. Elon's companies have always cooperated with each other, and they always will. They don't need to have cross investments to make that a reality. Some of you, look, I personally, as an investor, I like the idea personally of getting access to the growth in xAI. But my first choice would be to invest in Neuralink if that was the intent. And just to be clear, xAI doesn't need Tesla's money. xAI doesn't need SpaceX's money. They can get money from other investors. And SpaceX should be using its money to invest in SpaceX's business, sell it, and get cash if you need it. And if you invest in xAI, if you invest in SpaceX, these are not companies that are publicly traded. Your investment is not liquid. You may have to hold it for a long time, and that can be a problem. Is xAI profitable at this point? I don't think xAI is profitable. I mean, they are selling Grok, and there is like a high level, price point of like $3,000 a year or $300 a month for Grok Heavy. I don't think that's generating enough revenue to be profitable yet. And don't forget that xAI, the thing with xAI is they're investing a crazy amount of money building out data centers. I forget what it's called, Cortex or something like that. And Tesla's investing huge amounts of money in its data centers. Somebody buys xAI and then Tesla AI outcompetes xAI. Nobody's buying xAI. Elon has a majority control or a controlling interest in xAI. Nobody's buying it out. xAI is not public, so it's the only way to get some exposure, sort of. Maybe that's how some see it. It's possible that Ron Barron's fund has a piece of xAI if he wants some exposure. I know he has access. He has some SpaceX stock. I think he has one of the other stocks. Maybe ARK Invest has a fund that's invested in Elon's startups. Have you, as an accredited investor, ever simply asked SpaceX or xAI if you can invest personally? It doesn't work that way. You don't go straight to the company. You would have to have like $10 million to be that guy, maybe even more than $10 million. It's typically venture capital funds that go there. And I have been in touch with some venture capital funds about participating in funding rounds, but I haven't had the opportunity I wanted yet. And there's a website, it's called SharePost and EquityZen, where you can, sometimes the illiquid shares are available. You can buy SpaceX stock. I think there was an opportunity to buy Boring Company stock a while ago. I don't think Neuralink's been on there yet, but I'm not sure. So they need to invest. I think, what do they say? They're building a 1 million GPU data center for xAI. So they need the cash, so that they're not profitable in the sense that they're not cash flow positive, right? Because even if they might be profitable in a sense, they're investing a huge amount of money in CapEx in building out AI data centers, and they're not going to stop. And I just think Tesla needs to invest a huge amount of money in AI data centers. And I don't know whether they have the electricity generation. Not only do they need the AI data centers, they need the electricity generation to power their data centers, because it's hard to get enough electricity. I think if xAI is buying a natural gas power plant from like the latest, the hottest technology natural gas power plant, and they're bringing it to Memphis to power the data center. Last I checked, Google has a 10% stake in SpaceX. Well, Google has crazy amounts of free cash, and they don't have something to invest it in, right? Google doesn't have a productive way of investing its cash. I don't know if Google has a 10% stake in SpaceX. I'm not sure about that. It is true that some other companies have made some investments in other companies, but I'm just saying, we know that SpaceX needs to invest its cash to build out Starship, to build out Starlink. We know that Tesla needs its cash to build out its AI data centers to build its robot manufacturing, to build its car manufacturing. Like, what's a car factory? Billions of dollars. Will solar battery power data centers, how much nuclear will power data centers? I don't think that you can get enough nuclear to build out the electricity generation needed. What we've seen is China is radically increasing their electricity generation, and the vast majority of that is coming from solar. And a lot of the electricity growth that we've had in the United States has been solar. There's some room for nuclear. There's some room for gas. There's some room for maybe even coal. But they can't increase electricity generation fast enough to support all the AI data centers we want to have built. Because it's not just Tesla and xAI. There's Meta wants to build them. Google probably wants to build more. There's a whole bunch more. So I want to see Tesla investing in electricity generation, electricity infrastructure, voltage transformers. There's a lot of stuff that you need. Drew Baglino has a new startup. I'd probably rather have Tesla invest in Drew Baglino's new startup because that's going to be directly related to what Tesla's doing in building electricity infrastructure, which is relevant for Megapack and Powerwall and solar. So Digital Blade says, Grok, more recent data suggests Alphabet's current stake has decreased to approximately 7% or so due to subsequent funding rounds and share dilutions. I think you mean in SpaceX. I didn't know that Alphabet had invested in SpaceX, and I'm not terribly worried about it. But, I forget how big Google's cash pile is. It's huge. So they can do things like that. Tesla has a decent-sized cash pile, but they need it for the things that they're investing in. I think Alphabet can't deploy its capital fast enough to invest in its own businesses, and their future's not looking bright. I mean, AIs like Grok and ChatGPT are stealing a lot of search from Google. That's where Google makes its money. Okay. Solar superpower. Yeah, the solar thing is a big deal, and I don't know why the Trump administration is trying to stop solar from growing. I think that's a huge mistake by the Trump administration, but it is what it is. Okay, so I think we've exhausted this story. Just to hit the point again, it looks like Tesla will have a vote. I think Elon is saying there will be a shareholder vote on whether Tesla should invest in xAI. Hey, as long as you're doing it, throw in Neuralink because I want to get in on Neuralink. But I don't think it's the right use of Tesla's capital. I think Tesla has other important uses of its capital. But again, I'm not smarter than Elon. I'm not smarter than the Tesla team. If they decide they're going to do this, I will support it. Tesla has much to work on. They can always use xAI on their products. Tesla has an image problem and not a They don't even have an image problem. That's a media story. That's a Tesla Q story that Tesla has a brand image problem. Tesla's brand is very strong. It's strong in China. It's strong in Thailand. It's strong anywhere. I met a guy who has a Deepal SO7, which is one of the Tesla killers that didn't kill Tesla. It was supposed to be a Model Y killer, and his car's parked here. My car's parked here. We're chatting about something else. I say, hey, I like your Deepal. I like your car. He says, yeah, I like yours too. You want to trade? This is a guy with a Tesla killer. Wanted to trade for my Tesla. Maybe they can cash in their Bitcoin to make the xAI investment. Yeah, somebody said they have like 11,000 Bitcoin, which would probably be, I don't know, what is that, like over $1 billion? But, again, if they cash in their Bitcoin, wouldn't you want them to invest in building out AI data centers to improve FSD and improve the robots and improve robot manufacturing? I think they have it. And it's not like Tesla, like if we're going to, like, just an example, we may be losing some, what do you call it? Zero emissions credit. They're getting regulatory credit revenue. And I think they're losing some of that with the Trump changes in law. So Tesla's revenue is going to decline from that source. I think they still get a lot of regulatory credit revenue from other countries, but that's going to eat into their cash flow. And, maybe this new model will generate some cash flow, and maybe we're going to have the more affordable models coming out and generate more cash flow. But invest in an out-of-date coal power plant. No, I don't think we want out-of-date coal power plants. That's not really consistent with Tesla's mission. Will Tesla buy silver or other mining operations? So far, they haven't bought mining. That's another example. Like, we know where they're building a lithium refinery. We know they're building a lithium iron phosphate battery plant. Like, they're probably going to want to build a bigger lithium iron phosphate battery plant after the first one gets up and running. They're probably going to want to build more megapack plants. They may want to build another lithium refinery, expand the lithium refinery. They need to get sources of lithium. They need to get nickel. They need, manganese, cobalt, whatever. There's a lot of stuff that Tesla needs, and they may need to have free cash for all that. Do you want that cash tied up in an investment in xAI? Like I said, the Tesla team knows better than I do, but right now that doesn't seem right. Yeah, $1.3 billion would be 11,000, maybe Bitcoin. I don't know. But again, if they cash out the Bitcoin, wouldn't you want them to invest in the things that in Tesla's business? Okay, I've been beating that horse. I think the horse is dead. I'm going to let it go. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Jim and Mark for moderating the chat. As always, please let me know what you think in the comments, whether it's on YouTube or this is being recorded and will be posted on X. So please let me know in replies. And thank you.